Welcome back to the Soul Fresh podcast. We invited Mr. Michael Jones, who is running for City Council of Warner Robins, Georgia, Post 5. His opponent is Clifford Holmes Jr., who is the incumbent right now, and that election will be on November 2nd of 2021. He is the owner of Open Minded Productions, LLC, Director of Logistics at the Middle Georgia Coalition for Community Engagement. Welcome, Mr. Michael Jones.
Hey, what's up, Warner Robins? It's Michael Jones, 32-year-old small business owner. I decided to take it upon myself to go ahead and enter this race for Post 5 City Council. If you're not familiar with Post 5, it's traditionally known as the North Side. So this is an underprivileged, almost downtrodden kind of area that has been neglected for way too long. And I realized that it's going to take somebody to actually stand up and want to do this. The community's been wanting it, but the people in charge have just felt like it's not something that is necessary to do. But we're here to change that. So, quick little background about me. I graduated from Houston County back in 2007. I was in the Georgia National Guard as a behavioral health technician. Psychology is something that I really take seriously. Mental health in general is something that I want to bring to the Black community. I feel like we don't really take it too serious, and we really need to start actually taking our mental health serious. As a community, we can become a lot stronger if we're a lot stronger health-wise. And another thing that is really big about me is politics. I've been in politics for a little while now, but I decided it's time to actually run for something. I started my own podcast back in June of 2019, and I just got tired of sitting behind the desk, not actually putting in any action. So I realized this is the perfect opportunity for me to actually do the things that I said I wanted to do a while back. And like I said, it's now, it's the time. This change has got to come. Our leaders have become way too complacent, and they continue to just watch these things happen as we continue to scream. So that's why my tagline is a voice for the voiceless, because I feel like Post 5 has been telling you for so long, we need this, we need that, we need this, and it's falling on deaf ears. And I'm kind of really tired of it. So no shade to the person who's in charge now, but I believe it's time for a change. I want to be that change. And part of that change is about my platform. So I've actually been canvassing these streets. You know, we've gone through Suzanne and Iverness and Green Street, and we've been in the States, and we've been all around this area talking to these people, trying to figure out what it is that they need done. You see, the problem with politicians is too many times they assume they know what you need, and then they want to go ahead and do that, and then feel entitled to your approval afterwards. We don't want to do it that way. We want to actually see what it is that is necessary to be done. And it's small things. You know, speed bumps, sidewalks, actually giving kids something to do, not charging them to go to the rec department that the taxpayers have already funded. There's so many small issues that we could start and just really take this city back. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I know that that kind of connotation can be, you know, misconstrued. What I mean is make this city the way that it needs to be on both sides, the north side and the south side. We put too much money into the south side, and it's time that we start diverting those funds back to the north, and we need to start building things up. We've talked about Commercial Circle and turning that into a downtown area, but where's the action? The action's right here with me, and I'm ready to make those changes. I can be the vote that is needed to push us over the hump. There's a lot of things that can get done, but they're not getting done because, like I said before, people are becoming too complacent, and it's time that we make that change. So, I'm running for Post 5 City Council. My name is Michael Jones. I'm very accessible. If you need to get at me, just holler at me. I promise I will always get back with you, and I'm always here to listen to your concerns and your needs and your issues. Another thing that I really want to address is the senior citizen community. I've noticed that they're not really being taken into account when these decisions are being made. Some of them are already on a fixed income, but we expect them to pay more property taxes, more utilities, pay to walk the track, $1 a day just to walk the track, or $25 for a month. Like, we have to do better. We have to take care of them. They are truly the backbone of our society and of this community as a whole. They are the history keepers, the gatekeepers. They are the ones who can tell you about everything that's happened, and they're the ones who are probably just as tired as we are about the things that haven't changed. We need to take them into account. Another thing, children. We have got to push our children into other things other than sports. While it's great for them to dribble a ball, throw a football, swing a baseball bat, not every child wants that. Some children just want to play chess. Some children want to learn how to be smarter. Some people want to just actually figure out other things to do. STEM is something that I am very involved with. And I think that by partnering with organizations who are already pushing kids towards that, the city can actually provide even better education and educational values onto our children. So I plan on actually partnering with a couple organizations that I work with on the side to actually bring these programs into effect and actually kind of put some community centers together. I was talking to this mother and she was telling me that over by Ada Lee Park, that there's just nowhere for them to do anything other than sit at the park. But we could actually put a community center there that actually allows the children to do things like learning STEM, like just connecting with each other, like just being outside of the house. You know, COVID did kind of mess things up, but we're kind of getting to a point where we feel like, hey, if we can get vaccinated, which is something that I think we should do, I'm not pushing it on you, but if we do that, then we can actually get back to a sense of normalcy and we can actually have a chance to bring this community back together. I want to bring pride and I want to bring love to this community because I feel like that's something that's missing. And I feel like that's a way that we could also address the crime. If you can look at your brother and your sister as a brother and sister and not as an enemy, then you wouldn't want to take their lives. And we have too much gun and street violence that needs to be addressed and needs to be curbed. So these are the kind of things that I would like to address. These are the kind of things that I would like to change. And with your vote on November 2nd, I can do such. Like I said, my name is Michael Jones. I'm running for Post 5 City Council, and I'm here to give a voice to the voiceless. Thank you.
Welcome to the Soul Fresh Podcast, where we speak truth to power with intentions to elevate your mind on a whole new way of thinking. Travel with us as we unpack these topics and issues and try to be as transparent as possible. I'm your host, BK.
And I'm your host, J. Steve.
Now let's get it. All right, welcome back to the Soul Fresh Podcast. I'm your host, BK.
And I'm your host, J. Steve.
J. Steve, what we got going on today?
We have invited Mr. Michael Jones, who's running for City Council of Warner Robins, Georgia, Post 5. And that election date will be November 2nd, 2021. So we would like to get him onto the podcast, ask him a couple of questions about the community and the reasons why he is running for City Council.
Welcome Mike Jones to the table.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, Mike Jones, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, so 32-year-old graduate from Houston County. Went to GMC where I got a psychology degree. My associates, I was also behavioral health tech in the Georgia National Guard, so psychology is just something I've been doing for a little while. I was what you would consider a social or community activist when everything kind of kicked off after the untimely death of George Floyd. We started doing a lot of demonstrations, a lot of marches. NAACP was kind of spearheading a lot of that, so I was a part of those things and realized that even though you can affect change that way, you can also affect change on the political scale. So I realized if there is an election that I can run for, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I decided it was time. Like you said, Post 5 is the north side of town, if you're familiar with the Warner Robins area.
The north?
You know. So
let's go and give a shout out to the north.
Yeah. Give it up.
Yeah, so I just realized that this side of town has been neglected for too long. You know, you hear the seniors talking about how there's nothing ever changing. And, you know, I want to be that change. And I don't feel like the person who's in charge at the current moment can actually provide that change. I feel like we need a spark, and I want to be that spark. So, like I said, I'm running for Post 5, and I'm here to make that change. I got a lot of love for the community, and I think it's time that they were finally heard.
And so that's the main thing that really made you want to get into these politics. And
I wanted to really get on like a federal level, but I realized, that's too much money, man. Fundraising for something like that is ridiculous. But then also, you don't really get to affect the change. You know, if you're one of the 435 representatives or 100 senators, you're not really doing much. You go to Washington, D.C. for maybe 3 to 4 months out of the year. But when you're talking about the local level, you know, you're affecting things. You're creating ordinances. You're helping with sanitation. You're doing utilities and these kind of things. And these are the stuff that affect us on a day-to-day. So I'd love to actually get my hands into those kind of things rather than trying to step up to a level where I can't really affect change and help the people that need it.
your post that you're in, that's Post 5, that's the north side of town predominantly.
Real quick.
We would say. Go ahead, brother.
Expand on Post 5.
All right, so Post 5 is what...
For people that don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're riding through Warner Robins, there's areas that we would call underprivileged.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of blighted areas where houses that are abandoned, buildings that are abandoned, you know, the weeds are growing all over them. They're boarded up, things like that. So it looks like it's a lot worse than it really is. There's a lot of love and community pride here, but the way that this place looks, you wouldn't really be able to tell. So there's, you know, Green Street, there's Alberta, there's parts of North Houston, North and South Davis. There's the area that we call the states, where basically all of the street signs are named after states: Hawaii,
Right.
Texas, Arizona, Iowa. And
there was also, hate to cut you off, that bad shooting that was
Right.
there just in that area a couple of weeks ago, and that young child's life was taken.
and then 4 others were, you know, sent to the hospital with shots. Like, I mean, that should never happen. You know. So actually, at the past city council meeting, they were actually trying to address how can they do something about that. And they were looking into permits, but then they realized that might be a violation of the First Amendment, because you don't really need a permit to, you know, peacefully assemble. And if you're saying it's like a street party to a degree, you're just assembling there.
Right.
So they're not exactly sure what they're going to do. So trying to curb that is something that we really need to look into. I think that by trying to address the healing part of the community, I feel like there's things that we still need to heal from as a community. And I feel like there's just a lot of pain, and that pain gets expressed in a whole bunch of different ways. And I feel like there's just a lot of misguided, you know, things going on. So we need to reach the youth. We need to actually talk to them about, why do you feel it's necessary for you to have to do something like that?
Yeah.
Those kind of things need to be addressed.
So to touch back on that incident that just happened, I'm not going to speak on it because I don't know too much. I'm not familiar with the logistics of what happened. But being that happened, that's not the first. That's probably the most biggest situation we've had. But there has been a lot of shooting and drama going on with the younger generation and young teens in that community. Mm-hmm. So what do you feel as far as you being in that position and you know, being able to take over and do something about it? What resources do you feel that the youth is lacking to be empowered or to be encouraged?
Honestly, a sense of self. I think that when you know thyself, you have a better understanding of who you are, but who the people across from you are. And like, you can't look at somebody as your brother or your sister and want to take their lives. Mm-hmm. But if you look at this person like, oh, that's just another, right?
Yeah.
Right. Not trying to say that, but that's what we tend to look at each other as, you know what I'm saying? Just another one, rather than somebody who could be my lover, my friend, my brother, my sister, you know, king, queen, God, goddess, whatever you want to use. I think that we need to instill a certain level of self-love, self-consciousness, and making them understand that they are worth something. They see that they're worth something. They see somebody else is worth something. You don't want to take that away. So as far as resources, I think we need to partner with other organizations who are actually attempting to bestow those kind of thoughts and those kind of feelings and those emotions on children, giving them places to go. You know, like, they don't have anything to do or anywhere to go. When you don't have anything to do, crime tends to, you know.
So are there any programs or anything out there that they're trying to come up with, the local government, I guess you would say, to help that side of the
I wouldn't
time?
say the local government is, but so Coach Ivory, I'm sure you guys are familiar with, right? He's got this thing called Warner Robins Learning Center of Georgia, where it's like an after-school program, and in the summer they do summer STEM camps.
Right.
So he is looking to expand upon that. There's this group called iSparkle where they do mentoring and stuff like that. So these kind of organizations are the ones that are spearheading this kind of change. So I think the city just needs to get behind them. Don't reinvent the wheel. Give them the resources that they need. Provide more areas for them to actually do this so that they can have more teachers and more volunteers and more people actually in the community. And don't make it to where they have to go to Watson over here. Make it to where they can come to Sewell Circle, you know, be at Dolores Tollip or Ada Lee or these areas that the kids are already at. They might not have transportation, so we got to bring it to them, and we got to make them feel like they can succeed.
Is it a generational difference as far as when we were growing up? We were busy. We had so much to do. It's the same community. It's the same side of town, but we had so many activities to do, so much, you know, not just sports, but the rec department was booming. That was like a hub for us to go, especially in the summertime.
Yep.
And the lady that used to work there, she did not play. But we had so much to do versus now we're in this whole social media day and age where kids are really just kind of stagnant, where they are just in front of the screen, in front of the computer, in front of the TV. You know, because now you got Netflix, everybody's streaming and binging. You binge all day. And I'm guilty of it. I'm grown though. I do my thing. So I feel on the weekend I can sit there and spend 9 hours watching. You know, I've been working all week, so I tell my family all the time, look, don't talk to me. I'm binging this. Like right now, this weekend. Well, probably when I go home, I'm probably going to catch up on that Dear White People. So
yeah, I'm with that. That's what's up.
Is there a difference? Is that one of the issues?
I kind of think it's twofold. I do think that social media does some type of psychological conditioning to you where it kind of forces you to see yourself in a different way, or you're striving to be something else. So if we continuously watch negative images, it's going to project a negative self-conscious or a negative mind state or a mentality, and that mentality breeds certain types of actions.
Hey, real quick, I know Steve's got a question for you, but just to piggyback off of that. So we talked off mic about hip-hop/rap music and its impact in society. Right. Just recently had an episode. How do you feel psychologically that affects the black community as far as promoting gang culture, misogyny, drug culture, just everything?
So, all right, so I'm a huge hip-hop head, and I don't want to down talk,
of course,
my favorite genre.
Yeah,
So
I get it.
What I kind of see is that I don't really think we, as the black community, actually own any real radio station.
No.
So the music that is being pushed through the mainstream is actually being pushed for a certain agenda. But if you go outside of that, and if you start listening to people who are actually on a higher conscious, a higher level, they're actually giving you the tools and the keys that you need to succeed. But it's being, kept away from people. So I do think that there is a level of detriment that will be enforced upon you if you consistently listen to, B word, H word, all these kind of things. You start to downgrade your women. You look at your women as, less than rather than what they really are. And you start thinking like this drug culture is cool. And, you don't really understand that what you're actually dealing with is pain.
Right.
So you do all these drugs because you're numbing yourself, because you're running away from whatever it is that you don't want to, don't want to face. And I think that the music that we're listening to right now kind of buys into that and plays into that. So I do think that there is a level of accountability that we, the people, the consumers, but also the level of accountability for the rappers. Like if you know that you have an influence, if you know that your platform reaches these kind of people, then you need to take it upon yourself to change the game. Why don't you provide something of substance? If you don't feel like it's going to be on the radio, then create your own platform. Do something where you feel like you can actually get that message out there rather than continuing to feed into the same BS that we have to listen to. I think that there's so many great rappers out there. I can go through a list of them that will give you something worth listening to. But then you hear the radio and you hear the things that are, the mind-numbing, commercialized, dumbed-down tracks that just consistently spew through the radio.
We talked about that, and I was like, the problem is the people, somebody made a comment, and I responded that the reason is because the people who run the radio stations don't look like us. So why would they care on how certain things are indoctrinated into us and how our image is perpetuated into society? It's just a never-ending battle. Then I think with the music plus the community, we're already dealing with generational trauma.
Right.
And then you add that on top of it.
I don't mean to cut you off, but another thing is that I don't really hear too many people talk about that the privatized stocks that the radio companies themselves buy into. So you actually are putting out rappers that are going to influence the culture to do certain things. They get locked up. You're making money not only off the music, the singles, but you're also making money off the stocks of the prison because these kids are going to prison and it's just a never-ending cycle.
And see, that's what I was telling you. That's the next one that we're going to be touching on the actual part too.
Yeah, man, it's a vicious cycle, So definitely, rappers do need to take more accountability of what they're saying. Like you can't keep talking about the Molly and the Percocets and all this other kind of stuff, and then say that you're trying to have a positive impact on your community. It's just contradictory.
It is.
It is. That's exactly what we were just talking about. Yeah. Back to the politics.
Right.
Wanted to circle back around to that. Do you think the north side of town is somewhat slowly being gentrified? Do you think that's happening to try and clean up the community?
I don't think so. I don't think it's actually being addressed at all because the same issues that the 60, the 70-year-olds that we're talking to, they say it's never changed. It's always been this way, aside from when Warner Robins really started. Everything was on the north side, and it's slowly being moved to the south side. So I don't think it's necessarily being gentrified. I think it's being ghettofied. I think that they're actually trying to not really address the true concerns and the true needs, small things. They'll lie to you about codes. Apparently they're saying you can't put speed bumps in a residential area, but I was told, like, where else would you put them? Right. I'm saying you have to put them there to prevent the speeding and everything like that. So why wouldn't you do something like that? And then they did it, and then they took them out. So it's like you're not really trying to address these issues. You don't really care for these issues, but you'll put the police and have them patrolling all the time. So, I do DoorDash on the side. So I'm constantly driving from the south side to the north side. If I'm on the north side, I know there's a cop over here at this intersection, posted up over here. I'm over there. It's lackadaisical. I'm just driving without a care in the world. So I feel like there's a heavy patrolling because this narrative has been forced upon everybody to believe that the North Side is just crime-ridden. Now, is there crime there? Of course, there's crime everywhere.
Right.
But if you heavily look for something, you're always going to find it.
Yeah.
But if you don't spend time looking in the other areas, then it makes it look like it's a lot better of a spot or a better situation. So I don't think it's necessarily being gentrified. Because I don't see any developers coming in here trying to put a Starbucks or nothing like that.
And to piggyback off of that, the question I always have every time I ride, when I am back in Warner Robins, because I'm from there, but I live in Perry now, when I'm on the north side of town, I see that new rec center that got built. And then I ask myself, okay, why did y'all put all this money into this rec center in this part of town, but you don't want to put any money to the surrounding areas to bring people to want to go to this area? Because a lot of people that are our age that know Warner Robins and have kids or whatnot, they're not going to want to go, hey, you know what, I don't really feel like taking my kid over there to go play baseball today, because that mentality, like you said, it's the north side of town. So they think crime's going to be there all times.
Yeah, so when we moved here in 99, we were actively discouraged from living on that side of town. The realtors wouldn't even take us over there. They're like, nah, you don't want to live there. You don't want to live there. And that's 22 years ago. So what's changed?
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like there's nothing changing.
Well, a little bit quick history. It's always kind of moved. So it started on what they call Front Street. So over by First Baptist Church, which is Jodytown area, and then you have the Tabor Drive area. So the crime and the negative connotation of that is this is a bad community has always traveled. So then it made its way and turned over to the Seward Circle area. And it kind of traveled to the States. And then over where I grew up at, across near Johnson Road, near where the rec center is, across from Northside Middle, then it slowly started to move over there. Most of the whites, they're going to move. You can sit there and literally watch them move. It's like we're chasing them. Because they used to live on the far north side of town by the base. Right. Then they moved over to the States area back in the day. Then we moved in, and then they moved out. And then where I lived, it was predominantly white. Now it's predominantly black. So, because then they started selling their houses or renting their houses and moved. And then, of course, when you have renters, that typically attracts us. So then we moved in, they moved out. And then it's just a slow rat chase as far as...
But see what it is,
which I think that's wrong.
A lot of the black people that finally want to get off the north side of town, well, we moved out, but guess who came down to the north side? The people on the south side of Macon.
I was just about to say that. I think that as you call them, Maconites, have been sliding steadily down here. And I think that's part of, I don't want to, put them as a stereotype, but I do feel like, Macon was very, very crime ridden, and now it's like, it's starting to really affect us because you can tell there's a lot of them kind of like sliding down here, moving in. So I do think that's an issue. I appreciate that history lesson. You know what I'm saying? You don't really get to talk too much about the actual things about Warner Robins in that kind of context. So I appreciate that.
I can get a map and just show you where they started versus where we started. And then you can just slowly just see how they move, we move in. They move, we move over there trying to better ourselves, just moving to a different community. But once they see that, okay, it's a lot of them moving over here, we got to move again.
They about to start getting out of Kathleen and Bonaire and Perry pretty soon.
Back on what he was talking about, gentrification. So I see that you don't see an issue with it, but as far as your idea on gentrification, is that an issue? Because I kind of go half and half on gentrification. So should there be some responsibility there? Because one of the reasons why gentrification actually exists is because maybe they feel like the community hasn't been taken care of. So if, say, you not taking care of your community, and then I come out of nowhere as a developer and I come and scoop it up and start buying up your properties, and then I start revamping it and revitalizing it, am I wrong for doing that? Just to be devil's advocate. So, and then you get mad because, I'm taking over the community, but you didn't really take care of it.
No, I don't necessarily think you're wrong for that, but I do feel like there's a lot more of a socioeconomic issue that kind of prevents certain people in those communities from being able to actually take over it themselves. Right. So one thing that I really appreciate in Atlanta are people like Killer Mike and T.I. who are starting to buy up real estate and then kind of like a communified gentrification where we ourselves are gentrifying our neighborhood, but not making it to where you can't live there. I don't like that part. Like if you're coming into this community, you're buying up all these things, and then you're making it to where the people who already live there can't afford it, and now you're forcing them out, and they don't have anywhere to go. That's the issue that I have with gentrification. But if we ourselves, if we start bringing in like some Black-owned developers who actually care enough about the community that they don't want to change the culture of it, but they want to change the the perception of it, then I'm completely fine with that. And I do think there's a responsibility upon the people who are there to at least clean up and keep the community looking good. But as far as the actual development, you're gonna have to talk to people that do those kind of things. Real estate developers, people who own property. They're going to have to get off of, this nonsense that they're doing, just letting properties sit there, become abandoned and things like that. I think if you don't have a tie to the community, but you have property in the community, you should either have to keep it up to code and up to date, or you should have to sell it. I don't see a need for you to be contributing to the blight in that area, especially if you're not part of that community. So I don't necessarily have a problem with gentrification if we ourselves are the ones so-called gentrifying ourselves, like Jay-Z would say. But I do have a problem if you have no ties to the community, you have no understanding of the culture of the people. You come in here, you put all these new things that they can't afford to use, and then you force them out. I think that's where the issue that I have with it.
Right, I understand that. And just to touch on another subject, going back into the politics.
Yeah.
I brought this up to myself last night because I witnessed it happen. What are your thoughts on the rally that was down in Perry yesterday, and the people that came out of the people that you haven't seen since about January 6th? You feel what I'm saying? You haven't seen any of those out and about. But I tell you what, brother, they were out in full force yesterday. I mean, where I literally had to detour myself to get to my house because just not to even be in that area. And I saw some evil stuff yesterday that I thought was all gone. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, man. So one of the things that I like to talk about is the idea of nationalism versus patriotism. Patriotism is like, I live in America. I love America. But I know America ain't always great. I can change America. I can help America be better. Nationalism is this blind allegiance that no matter what, the country you live in is perfect.
Right.
I believe that there is an individual, I don't like using his name, but I think he came about in 2016, ended up winning a presidential election, and he emboldened this idea that we, as a certain community, are superior, and what we believe in is what needs to be done. So Kaepernick was saying things like, this is a problem. We need to change it. Blackballed. This guy comes and says, this place isn't good enough. We need to make it great again. And they rallied behind him because they saw a certain thing in him. As far as these rallies and these things like that, I don't understand how you could have a political cult figure, and then just like get behind him.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Did I vote for Biden? I guess I'll go ahead and say, yeah. But do I support Biden? That's a different thing. I'm not out here selling Biden 2024 shirts and stuff like that because I don't really care too much for it in that context. But they see this guy and they identify with this guy. They think of him as a savior. And I feel like they've just bought into any and everything that he says. And that's very, very dangerous because they're not thinking for themselves. And the stuff that he's spewing is very, very radical in a bad way. And it's not really conducive to the country being better. It's conducive to probably trying to incite some type of civil war. So to me, I think it's all stupid. I'm not calling them stupid, but I think this idea of just getting behind this guy as he can do no wrong, just feeling like he is this supreme being guy, I think that's a bigger issue. So I didn't see too much about the rally, but if it's just like any other rally he's had for the past 4 or 5 years, then I feel like it's just a bunch of nonsense and them talking, just getting rowdy and crazy.
Had Herschel Walker there and everything.
I ain't gonna talk about
we're
it.
not going to say that. We don't want to get in that.
I ain't even gonna talk about
it. You got to see the news article. There's 3 brothers standing in the back.
Yeah.
Blacks for I'm like, what? Sit show.
There's about 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, man. I thought your boy was going to be there.
Yeah. I called him and asked him.
Right. Hey, another quick question.
What's up?
So has the political climate calmed down, or is it still as high tension as when he was in office?
I think it's calmed down in certain aspects, just simply because he's not front street every day. He used to be able to be on Twitter and Facebook and, out there. So everybody would constantly be like, that's my guy. So they would come out because they felt necessary to continue to speak and keep him in the limelight, in the front. But now with, a new president and doing things, I think they went back to being keyboard warriors and talking behind the computer saying, well, Biden can't do this or Biden can't do that. They don't really care too much about, politics, they care about this guy. He was always talking about we're winning, but he would never explain what they're winning.
Right.
Like, what exactly have you won?
Right.
And not even about elections or anything like that. But if you feel like what you're doing or the policies you're pushing are winning for America, but we continue to fall further and further and further down as far as like a world power and our status and stature in the world, like we're not really winning, you know. So, and then there's a lot of things that you could look at, like the happiness index that takes a whole bunch of things into account to see exactly where your country stands as far as mental health and things like that.
Right.
We're consistently at the bottom. Education, we're getting towards the bottom. So I don't feel like we're winning, but I feel like that narrative plays very well into people who just want to feel like America is the greatest. But if you ask them what's so great about America, they don't really have too many answers.
Right, they can't really tell you.
And to go back to the city, talking about mental health and
Yes.
on the north side of town and the what I call the original South Side, that's what they call the Warner Robins, when you go down to the Union Grove area on the other side of Davis. How do you feel that that's impacted the community, and what can we do about it, the mental health situation? I think we see more people walking the streets. I see more people walking the streets talking to themselves. Got more homeless people. What can we do about it in our city? What do these people need?
The first thing that we really have to do is have an honest conversation and destigmatize mental health. We have this idea that if you have a problem with your mental health, you're crazy. And we bought into the idea that crazy means this or this and that. But mental health is literally just a disorder that you might be going through that impairs or affects the way that you operate and see the world and things like that. So we have to actually stop making mental health into a bad thing. That's the first thing. We have to address the fact that mental health is just another part of our health. Physical health, spiritual health, mental health. These are things that if you have them all aligned, you will be a fully functioning, self-sufficient individual. Now, as far as those issues, that's very complex. I think there's a lot of things. You do have to address homeless, not even just with mental health. It could be war veterans who can't get a job and now they done fell on hard times. So addressing homeless by putting in programs and things like that. One of the councilmen, his wife actually does those kind of things. She'll go feed the homeless. She'll put together toiletry bags and things like that, pass them out at the tent cities and stuff like that. We need more people doing that. Another one of the councilmen or candidates for council, one of her organizations does that. They feed the homeless and things like that. So we need to actually be able to let them know like they have a place that they can come to, a safe place. We need more shelters and we need more volunteers to work at these shelters. Those are things that we could do. But as far as addressing the health or the mental health, I think what would be nice is if some of these behavioral health facilities, maybe the Phoenix Center, there's another one, Curtis Behavioral, I know a few of the people in there, if they would I know it sucks to say, if they would volunteer some of their time or their services and go to certain centers or certain buildings or whatnot and set up shop where, if you have an issue, you can actually come talk. You can see this guy and they can help with resume building. They can help with substance abuse. They can help with these kind of things that are contributing to the mental health decline or also to the homelessness or to the lack of opportunity or whatever it might be. And I think if you can address multiple issues at once, then you can help these people, but it's going to take a lot. And it's going to take the community also. The community is going to want to have to learn that, look, mental health isn't something to be scared of. And this word crazy isn't something we can continue to throw around.
Right.
Right.
So just a few of the things.
Question about our children. So you said you had a background in psychology. So how will you implement a background in psychology to empower the youth in our city?
So I go back to what we were talking about as far as a sense of self. So for me, I grew up in a way where I didn't truly understand what it meant to be proud of my blackness.
Okay.
So coming to terms with that, understanding like, there's nothing wrong with me for being black. I think that we are conditioned through a whole bunch of things. We see ourselves as thugs, as robbers, as a whole bunch of bad things, criminals. And by trying to change the perception, change the channel, those kind of things, letting them know like you can be anything, and teaching them our actual history, teaching them about other people who have succeeded in things that they might have thought they couldn't have,
right.
Like psychiatrists and scientists and robotics and things like that, teaching them like, that's why Black Panther was such an amazing thing for a lot of our children, because they saw something in T'Challa. There's like, wow, this is my hero. This is my superhero. You know what I'm saying? Right. This isn't Superman. This isn't Batman. This isn't some white guy with a costume on running around. This is a brother that's actually taking care of business. And then you see this beautiful, tribe in Wakanda, and you start to see yourself. And when you can see yourself and you can identify with things, you become inspired, and that inspiration brings motivation, and that motivation pushes you to be better than you thought you could ever be. So we need to get them on a level of understanding who they are and who they can become, rather than who they think they are and what they feel destined to have to be. Self-fulfilling prophecy is something that I think we don't talk about enough, where it's like, all right, I've done this, so now that means I'm automatically going to end up in ISS, and from ISS I'm going to end up at Watson or Crossroads or whatever the alternative school is now, and then from there I'm going to end up in juvie, and then I'm going to be in YDC for a while. That mind state is like a continuous downfall, and we consistently have to go through those issues, rather than being like, I made a mistake. I'm not perfect, but I can be better. You know what I'm saying? We got to get them to understand, like, one mistake isn't going to mess you up. And, and understand, like, you have the ability to be better. You can be better. So I think giving them something to inspire to, and giving them a reason to feel like they have pride in themselves and a sense of self, is something that has to be at the core of anything that we do when it comes to making our children feel better, and then, providing certain things for them.
Off mic, we talked about it. So just enlighten us on, what is your platform? Why are you running?
All right, so we've been putting out door hangers and door signs, and on there I got 5 main things that I wanted to address. And the first one is blight. Like I said, we keep using that word, trying to figure out ways that either we can talk to the owners of these buildings to get them to actually do something about it, get it up to code, or sell it off to somebody and give them an opportunity to open their own business, things like that, which leads into economic development. I feel like this crime issue is always addressed in the wrong context. We always talk about, how do we get more police officers? How do we do this? But there is a underlying thing that comes with crime, and it is a lack. It is a lack of opportunity. It is a lack of mental health services. It's a lack of everything that you need to be the best of yourself. Economic development can do so many things by bringing in a whole bunch of different industries, a whole bunch of different jobs, and allowing people to actually become financially literate and self-sufficient. So I definitely want to bring in developers to this side of town, not just to the south side, but to this side of town. I think we need that. We need that really, really bad. And that's what a lot of the people that I've been talking to have been telling me. Like, we don't have jobs. We don't have things for the kids. We don't have this, that, and the other. Economic development is something that I believe can actually bring those type of opportunities, those resources that we're lacking, over to this side of town, which can give people something to actually be able to do.
Well, if you were to get elected, do you think your constituents would be on board with everything that you want to do positive for that community?
I believe so. Like I said, I know that my opponent hasn't been doing the things that we're doing. We are actually talking to these people. We're seeing what it is that they need. Old, young, middle, doesn't really matter. They all have, a lot of ideas, a lot of concerns, things that they want, but they feel like they can't reach their councilman. They feel like those people are on Mars, So it's like, how do we make you understand, like, we're right here. We live in the same community as you, you know what I'm saying? So they do want these things. And like I said earlier, the small things, like sidewalks. Why don't we have sidewalks on more of these streets? If we know that the most amount of walkers in Warner Robins are on the north side of town, make it safer for them to walk. Right. Those kind of things.
This is a small city. It's not like New York. Your city councilman should be accessible.
Very accessible.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Like, you shouldn't have to go through this person and that person just to get to your city council. I get bigger cities, it's different, but here,
yeah.
I should be able to call you up on the phone, and you should return my phone call sometime that day, or we should have some type of correspondence through email. I don't think it's that hard.
Through Facebook Messenger.
Something.
Let me hit you up. Ask you a question.
And you guys saying that brings me to number 3. That's transparency. I feel that there has been so many behind the scene backdoor things going on with these councilmen and the mayor that we don't hear about until it's already passed. Yeah. So now we're in these lawsuits. Why? Because they thought that it was cool to go behind our backs and sign contracts that shouldn't have been signed, faulting on them, reneging on them, this, that, and the other. That's our money that has to be paid. When another lawsuit comes out, taxpayers are paying for that, for the settlement. The gas leaks that happen, to get those rectified, we're paying for that. You know what I'm saying? Them raising utilities, it's not a coincidence that all of a sudden we got these lawsuits and now you're trying to raise our utility. You raising property taxes. They say it's just to reassess the property value, but you don't do that in the middle of a housing bubble if you know that it's about to burst in a couple of years. Are you just going to drop the property taxes? So those kind of issues that, are just talked about behind closed doors. What I want to do, we have the means for social media. We have an official Warner Robins page on Facebook and YouTube and things like that. There's no reason why we don't have town halls anymore. There's no reason why we're not being able to broadcast, hey, there's a hearing on, September 24th. And if it's September 12th, then for the next 12 days, you need to put a thing out there like, hey, there is a meeting in 11 days. There's a meeting in 10 days.
Right.
But when I went to the council meeting for the public hearing for the property taxes, excuse me, they were telling us, well, we follow the law, and we like, just following the law doesn't mean that you did enough. You can always do more.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a bigger issue, that level of complacency, feeling like just because you've done enough. Nah, we need to do more. That's the only way we're going to finish these issues.
It should be more fixed. Should be more visualization, because the pandemic showed us that the impact of visualizing things.
Right.
Because we were forced to do it.
Right. It's like you said, town hall meetings.
Yeah.
Warner Robins is still small enough where you could be able to have a town hall meeting.
Right. And you invite community leaders, you invite healthcare experts, you invite attorneys, you invite all kinds of experts in their fields.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and you allowed them to answer the questions of the citizens. They got concerns. They want to know what's going on. Provide that for them. There's no reason that we're not doing that other than the fact that they're trying to hide things. And that's why I think transparency is best.
It's always been like that. Everything's always backdoor.
Yes, sir.
Just like the whole I feel like, where was the mayor during the pandemic? You just seem like he just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, he should be on here, encouraging the community, talking to the community, not playing sides, like saying, hey, you should go do this, but there should be some type of dialogue with the community as far as what are the plans for the city, what are the plans for the school system.
Yeah, so I can't say too much with me running, so I don't want to, alienate. But what I will say is I do agree that there isn't enough being spoken in front of closed doors. It seems like there's a lot of closed sessions, and they're talking about the litigations, or they're talking about how they done messed up again, or how they done got this, going on and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, it's another council meeting, and it's like, all right, well, we voted on this. Okay, but where was the citizen input? You know what I'm saying? Why wasn't the community aware that this was even about to happen? I feel like that's a bigger issue, because now only thing we do is figure out after the fact. And I don't think that's right. So for me, I want to do everything within the law of allowing the citizens to know what is going on. If it's not something in closed session, or if it's not something I'm abiding by law to not actually say, then you're going to know it from me. You know what I'm saying? I'm a millennial, so I'm going to be on social media. I'm going to be telling y'all what's going on, because
you're still going to the street too.
Right. Yeah. And that's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
That's how you communicate with them. Mm-hmm. That's why I say earlier when I said we need somebody a little bit who can identify with what we got going on now.
Right.
Things have changed.
Right.
So
somebody that's at a different age that can see it how it is right now.
Right.
Right.
The people on social media.
Right. The people on social media. But I was saying, but he also hits the street too.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
You probably go door to door, handing out flyers and doing all that.
We're not allowed to actually knock on doors. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out and about. So, we try to talk to as many people as we can. But as far as like knocking on their doors, it's kind of like frowned upon. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people we've had a chance to talk to. And it's been dope, you know what I'm saying? Like, just listening to these people, because the number one thing that we ask every time is, do you know who your city councilman is? Mm-hmm. No.
They don't know.
Have you seen your city councilman before? No.
No.
You know what I'm saying? That is a problem.
It is. Let me tell you why it's a problem, just from me. People, we really, especially the black community, we really have to pay attention to the smaller elections. It starts from the bottom. And I think what happened last time, when we could have had a first black DA, and we could have had a first black clerk of Houston County, but I'm not going to go into that. So,
and a black county commissioner.
Black county commissioner, yes. We could have had a lot going on, but certain communities we didn't show up and the numbers weren't there. But I think it was because you had a lot of rhetoric of, I ain't, people think about the president election.
Right.
I ain't voting for neither one of them. You can't just worry about that. We still have these other smaller elections that we need to get in place, and that we can put the right people in place and also make a change and make a difference. And I'm not saying, okay, vote about color. No. But at the same time, listen to their platform and look at their history and give these people an opportunity. But I think that lack of paying attention to the big stage detours people away from not focusing on your city councilman and that mayor race and that DA race and that city clerk. That was one of the hard things that my sister had to do, was try to get people to first understand what the clerk actually does. So I think that was a big responsibility. And I think that just it's all about, I guess, informing the community and just staying and just pumping that information out and letting people know that, hey, vote for your city councilman. What does your city councilman do? Who is your city councilman? And I think that's a problem of just not focusing on, the smaller elections, because that's the biggest impact. It starts from the bottom.
Yeah.
I think that's by design too. I think that they intentionally like muddle up the way that the other elections are going to make you feel like your vote has no true meaning.
Right.
So everybody will say, if we were allowed to vote, then it wouldn't matter. My thing is, if it didn't matter, they wouldn't try so hard to suppress it.
Exactly.
So obviously there's a reason they're trying to suppress it. They're trying to keep you from being able to vote because you have the ability to affect change in your own community. And like you said, it starts at that level. If you want more police officers prosecuted for the things that they do, then vote for a progressive DA that's going to actually step up and do those things. But if you don't want that to happen, then you're going to continue to allow the same kind of things to happen. You want the cases that are being brought, you want more justice, then you got to vote for a more progressive judge, one that's going to understand how to handle case by case rather than, just doing status quo. Like, you can affect these things by your vote. And right. I don't think people really understand the power of their vote, especially on the local level. These are the things that affect you on a day-to-day. So you have to be able to see past the political rhetoric and get past your political apathy. Like, there's no reason to feel apathetic about politics. Now, if you feel like you're not educated enough, I can understand that. But then get educated.
Right.
If you see the problem, fix the problem. And I feel like a lot of us don't want to take the time to get educated, and I think with education comes confidence, and I think with that confidence you can actually provide for a better community. So if it's something that we need to work on as far as elected officials, making it more accessible, making it easier for you to have that information, then that's something we need to do. But I think also it's still by design. I think that they're attempting to keep people from being able to do things. It was $250 to run for council. All of a sudden now it's $400. It's $3,000 to run for mayor. Everybody doesn't have that kind of money.
Right.
You can't just go dole that money out. You just went through a pandemic. You might have lost your job. You might be behind. So it's like they want a specific type of people to run, and they only allow those kind of people to run.
That's what I was going to ask you too. What are some of the other background hurdles that you may have had to overcome trying to just be a politician in this city alone?
Image. My image apparently doesn't come off as the prototypical politician. But to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you want change, then you can't keep asking for the same thing. Like, I don't think the way that I look is going to have anything to do with the way that I vote, the way that I govern. I care about the community way too much to not do what's best in their interest or whatnot. So having to get over that, having to talk to people who might not truly feel like you have their best interest in heart, but still want to know what you're going to do for them, that's been a hurdle. As far as like political barriers, I haven't really found too many. But yeah, it's been difficult in certain aspects as far as trying to connect with certain people. It's like, I love my senior citizens, but sometimes they'll say, this isn't how I would want you to do it, and this, that, and the other. And, kind of trying to compromise with them and let them know, like, look, just because I am this way, I might talk this way, doesn't mean that I don't want you to have the best of the best over here. I want to bring this over here so that, the last few days or last time that you got here, you can spend it enjoying it and not have to worry about certain things. I want to bring the crime down because I care enough about the community. I want to feel safe in my own community. So it's like, these are the things that I want to do. So just understand, like, my image has nothing to do with me fighting for you.
Yeah,
giving you a voice.
It has a. It's kind of like how Stacey Abrams was dealing with the same thing. She doesn't look like a governor.
Right.
Right. She's got a twist in her head.
Right. She's too black.
Yeah, she's too black, and she she's just not the right size or whatnot.
Right.
So I think so far you're doing a good job with just the things that I've heard with connecting with different
I appreciate that.
Demographics.
Yeah. Like I said, I
from what I've been seeing on social media as far as people talking. So,
thank you. Like I said, I've realized that there is a diverse set of demographics in this area. We consistently just think that it's the black side, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? There's a Hispanic community, there's an Arab community, there's a white community, there's a whole bunch of different kind of people who are just trying to live their best life and better themselves, whether they're the young ones, whether they're the senior citizens, and they all deserve to be heard and they all deserve to be taken care of, but I don't feel like they are being taken care of. So that's why it's like, look, this has been going on for too long, and if nobody else feels like they can do something, I do. Right. I feel like I can help affect that change, and I feel like that's why I've been called to do this. So like I said, I don't want to alienate myself from anybody. I want them to all feel like, hey, I can reach out to Mike. I can talk to him. He's just like us. You know what I'm saying? There's no difference between him and me. You know what I'm saying? So that way I can inspire the next generation to feel like, hey, I can have my afro and I can still run for this. I can be this guy. I can be that guy. I want them to see me as them.
And I think that would help the community in the long run to see somebody that looks like you in the community, somebody that they can contact right away. But guess what? They're pretty sure in their mind you might have a closer answer to what they're looking for because you're probably more closely related to them. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think in the long run that would be a good thing. But like you said, some of the older community, they still look at you like, one, you're young.
Right.
You know, they feel like all their politicians should be.
Man, he
50.
don't know nothing.
Yeah, he don't know nothing. He's still wet behind the ears.
All that.
You know, but
Yeah, I don't want to single them out, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not just them that kind of has that mentality. You know, some of the other generation that, you know, graduated right before me might be some of y'all's, you know, classmates and stuff like that. Some of them still have that kind of old thinking mentality. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I'm saying? It's gotten you as far as it has. So, you know, I'm not going to knock it or nothing like that. I just want people to kind of get to a point of understanding, like, it's not about what this person looks like or how this person presents themselves in every aspect. It's about what is this person truly going to do if I give him my vote? And that's all I want them to know, because I love the senior community. I get a chance to talk to them. You know, I go to some of their houses, you know, spend time with them. They graciously let me in their doors, and I'm truly grateful for that. So I want to show them the most amount of respect, just like the incumbent or my opponent. You know what I'm saying? He's an older guy. I don't want to show any disrespect to him because I appreciate what he has done for the community. He's been here doing a lot of things. I think he said since like 76. He's been a very big instrumental part of this community. He's been a pillar. So I don't ever want to come off as disrespectful. I would never, ever want to come off as the young, radical kid who doesn't care about the people who have come before him. I feel like we were talking about hip hop. I feel like that's an issue with some of these younger rappers. They don't care about the pioneers. They don't want to pay homage to those kind of people. I'm not that. I understand that I can't do this without understanding what came before me.
Right.
I can't do this without knowing the hurdles that you guys had to go through. For me to be able to run right now, you guys had to go through a whole bunch of different things for me to be sitting in this spot right here. So I don't ever want them to think like he doesn't care or he doesn't want to listen or he doesn't want to do that. I'm here to listen and I am here to care because I do. So I just want them to kind of get past certain things and just understand, like, I feel I'm the best candidate, not because, you know, I feel like I'm staying true to myself, but because I feel I'm staying true to this community, and this community needs something different. This community needs change. That's me. That's what I'm here for.
I got one question, the last question. So tell us a little bit about young Mike Jones, like as far as your first political ambitions. I know you said earlier off mic, you said you've been doing it for a while. So tell us about that experience, how we got here.
Wow. Like I said, I really thought that being on the federal level is how you get things done. I had no idea really about politics. I would read about certain things, but I didn't really truly understand how politics work. And then I see behind the scenes how things work, you know, on Capitol Hill. Nothing gets done. And that's why those laws, they're not really going to affect you too much. But at a younger age, I didn't get that. You know, I was like, nah, I'm going to be president. You know, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to be the leader of the free. Nah, it doesn't work like that. What it works like is you start small. You start in your community. You figure out how can you make that change. And I was very, very pig-headed. I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to jump straight into it. But I realized that's not going to be the best way for me to achieve what it is that I want to achieve. If I got issues in my own backyard, why am I trying to go to the next city? I need to work on that before I even do anything. So I felt like if I could actually be somebody who could affect change here where I live, then maybe I could eventually get to a point of affecting change. It's been a long road, like trying to study politics, trying to understand them, trying to understand codes and ordinances and municipalities and this, that, and the other, reading the charter, understanding what the departments do, fighting to see how do we get a city administrator. Now we have a city administrator. How do we make him do what he's supposed to do? How do we get council to work with the mayor? Those are the issues that are really important. And how do we make this, you know, a more effective community? So I started realizing, like, that's what I want to do. That's how I want to do it.
You're doing the groundwork because, you know, a lot of people let their friends gas them up like, hey, man, you speak well. You should run for office. You know, and I think it's a little bit more bigger than that. And I think you're doing the groundwork. All right, at the end of each episode, we go ahead and do a 5-word drop on you. So I give you a little example of, I'm going to give you one word. You give me the first word that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Got it?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Ready? All right. Don't think about it. Just drop it.
Just drop it.
All right. Warner Robins.
City.
Youth.
Young.
Politics.
Annoying.
Racism.
It is hard.
Woman.
Woman. Beautiful.
Gotcha. All right. All right. Give it up for Michael Jones.
Yeah, like I said, thanks for the invitation, man. This was dope.
No problem.
I really
Appreciate
enjoyed
you.
just like talking to y'all. I don't really get a chance too much to talk about these certain issues unless I'm on the campaign trail. So
Right.
just sitting here, just regular casual conversation, this is fun.
Okay, cool.
Appreciate
cool.
that.
Hey,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Thank you for checking out this episode of the Soul Fresh Podcast. And to check out more episodes, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. And in the meantime, until the next time, keep it 100, be blessed.
Bye.